What is Cloud Foundry? Cloud Foundry is an open source cloud platform as a service that was originally developed as a joint venture between VMware EMC and General Electric, and now owned by Pivotal Software. So when you're working on some backend application, you will see that most of the organizations are going for Cloud Foundry, and their DevOps systems, which we will cover a little late here, their DevOps systems are connected with Cloud Foundry. So this is nothing, just think about it, a single unit of like we have the microservices, we have the micro frontend. You can think of this as a micro instance running somewhere on the internet, and you can actually upload it. So Cloud Foundry can have the public instances as well as the private instances, very close to this if you want to compare it with something. So Heroku is one of the application that is that gives you like very close to have the features like what the Cloud Foundry, but Cloud Foundry is being one of the favorite component for any enterprise application or organization, where they are like running a little behind when they think about Oracle, AWS, Azure, these kind of services. So Cloud Foundry, you can just simply assume that this is one space where we can have the Tomcat and each and everything running already. We can just simply put up our jar or the war file to make this runnable. Now, what is cloud management platform? A cloud management platform is a product that gives the user integrated management of public, private, and hybrid cloud environment. What are these public, private, and hybrid cloud environment? We will talk about it, but so far what we discussed is we discussed about the public cloud environment. So all the examples that we considered so far, other than the cloud, because cloud may have the private version as well, which means it is not accessible outside your organization. It is very limited, and you can consider this as on-prem. Cloud Foundry setup can be very simple to your on-premise system. Now to talking about what is cloud marketplace. A cloud marketplace is an online marketplace operated by a cloud service provider, which may be Azure, Oracle, GCP, AWS, where customers can browse and subscribe to software application and developer services that are built in, integrate with, or supplement by the offerings. So to be able to buy their product, like we talked about that AWS has more than 200 services. Similarly, Azure also have, and Oracle also have some of the modules and the services available. You may not be necessarily using all these things, but some of these services, how to purchase that? So cloud marketplace is the like a dedicated site for these different service provider, where you can go and create your login, put up your credit card, and then you can start purchasing and utilizing these services. So one of them for Oracle, we will use it today. Other than that, console.aws.com is for AWS. Similarly, we have for Microsoft as well as for GCP. Now, cloud migration. So cloud migration is the process of transferring all of piece of company's data, application, and services from on-premise to the cloud. So which means traditionally most of the companies are running on-premise version of this application, right? Which means they have their own data center. Now to be able to migrate to the cloud, they needs cloud engineers, cloud architects, and that's where you will see that in today's time there is huge demand of cloud engineers. So cloud migration is how the application should go from one place to another place without even a downtime. If someone is using Paytm today, and let's assume that Paytm is on premise, and if it goes to the cloud, there should be seamless experience for the users who are actually using Paytm at the moment. So cloud migration is very much important. Now there can be different kind of approaches when we think about the cloud migration. One is we can do the lift and shift, which means as it is, we are taking this and migrating it onto the cloud. Whereas the other could be we are going to use managed services. And that is where it is important. Like if you are going to manage service, so how you will actually convert your scripts which are now supporting SQL Server or Oracle at on-premise instance, but on cloud it will be completely different, right? So this is really important to understand. Now what is cloud native? So usually those services which are managed by the cloud providers are the cloud native. Like MySQL is not cloud native, whereas if we talk about Lambda function in AWS, Azure functions in Microsoft Stack, DynamoDB, Aurora, so these are some of the native cloud functions which are managed by the cloud itself. Cloud washing, which is next one, and I'm let me know if you have any questions. Please pause me, because it is important. It is even important than the hands-on exercise, that you understand all these terminology and should be able to correlate with. Okay, so cloud washing is, yes Sarthak?
Sir, so what is the difference between cloud migration? I think backup is incremental and migration transferring all.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a good question, and how backup is actually related with the migration. So once you are on the on-premise instance, you are creating DR site, disaster recovery site, which means your backup is being synced. You may have the primary data center in Delhi, whereas the secondary data center or the disaster recovery data center in Mumbai. Now, to be able to connect, like when Delhi center goes down, you may want to switch to Mumbai immediately. Similarly, when we talk about cloud, right, which is not the on-prem version, which is like the cloud version of your application. So cloud migration is when you move your application from on-prem to cloud, that is called the cloud migration. Whereas to maintain the DR side of your cloud one region, you may be doing it with some other region, so that is a cloud backup, which means whenever there is a downtime or when there is a situation that one region of your cloud instance goes down, you should be immediately switch to the other one. So this is really very simple topology what we have on the on-prem version. In the cloud, we are calling it cloud backup, so that it can be restored immediately, right? And the like very simple or very general example, if I talk about it, you have your laptop, you are taking its backup on the hard disk or maybe in the pen drive. Very similar, these disaster recovery or the cloud backup are actually takes in place, so that whenever the data is required, you should be able to take from the secondary place.
Active passive.
Yeah. So that can be active, that can be active passive, basis on like which is your application's requirement. So in the application like Amazon or something, it's definitely active, so that there should not be any downtime for the users. Where an active passive, there will be some downtime for the switching, and these are generally like enterprise level applications within an organization. Yeah. So what is this cloud washing? Cloud washing is a deceptive marketing technique used to rebrand old products by connecting them to the cloud, or at least to the term cloud. So MySQL, Oracle, which they have the on-prem version of it, and then certainly like they are coming to the cloud, and it's more like they are the enterprise version of these applications. So this is a deceptive marketing techniques that they call about, that they are making it scalable, and they are making it highly available. But in fact, these are not a scalable one, but their underlying infrastructure is making them scalable, where they are being hosted on the containers which are like highly scalable, and that is how they are managing it. CSP, we already talked about it. Cloud service provider. So they have different AWS, Azure, and GCP are the examples. And this PaaS, IaaS, SaaS, we already talked about it. Cloud sourcing. Cloud sourcing is the act of replacing traditional on-premise IT operations with low-cost cloud-based services. Right? So it is very much interrelated with the cloud migration. But what happens? The service companies are meeting the product companies or the organizations, and nowadays this is really famous that they first understand what is their on-premise version, they calculate the cost, and on top of it they are suggesting, okay, this is working well for you, this is not working well for you, this is our plan. And if you go on AWS, Oracle, Azure, or GCP, this is how much saving and scalability you will achieve. So the process of marketing this thing is called cloud sourcing. Cloud storage. Cloud storage is a model of computer storage in which data is stored, managed by a hosting company, and is accessed remotely by the user via network. So cloud storage is very simple, like on hard disk or the pen drive available over the internet. Every CSP, cloud service provider, is providing different mechanisms to access it. Talking about some of the famous cloud storage, so we have AWS S3. Oracle also provide the storage, we will look into it. And on Microsoft they have the storage component. Then they have the advance of this, like if you want to actively access some of the data, so they usually charge you higher because they keep it in the warm stage, whereas some of the data which you see that should be archived, they are putting it into the glacier kind of services of AWS, or cold storage for Azure. They are keeping it there, and the charges are usually lower. So when you need to design an application as a cloud architect, you need to see how much data you need in the active state and how much data you will need in the passive or the archived state, so that everything will be available on cloud, but the charges will be differentiating. And these are actually costly services. So when you are designing, you need to be very mindful about when to choose, what size to choose. Right? Talking about content, and this is very simple. Like if you have this hard disk available in your computer that costs you more, where the hard disk that you use for any backup, that is relatively cheaper. So that kind of a logic is there.